Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Boone. As you may notice, I am outside today. I am not in my bedroom for once. And what's this? Decent video quality and audio quality? That's right, my camera and my microphone finally shipped. So I am hopefully going to start improving the overall quality of these videos. I might even start editing them more. Wouldn't that be something? But I'm still getting used to everything. So expect to see some different backdrops over the next few videos and I don't know, I'm just gonna be messing around and trying new things. But for here, this seemed like it's, beautiful weather. Why not shoot here? And today I wanted to talk about a topic that it's kind of run its course, honestly. I'm a little bit late to the train on this one, and honestly, that's partially because I just didn't really want to make the video at first. I was a little apprehensive about it. It's something that I think a lot of people have really already put their opinions out there on, and many other trans YouTubers specifically have already covered it, and I just felt like I didn't really need to. And then I did some reflecting, and I'm like, I actually have some pretty strong feelings about this, and it's something that is important to me personally, and I thought, why not put that out there, because it might mean something to somebody else. And so that is about the recent Twitter scandal controversy revolving around J.K. Rowling. You probably know her as the author of the very popular Harry Potter series. That's certainly how I know her. Harry Potter is a series that is very close to my heart and something that I've been in love with since I was a little kid. If you don't know, J.K. Rowling has recently put out some tweets and an essay labeled Turf Wars, which is very funny, recently, that have sparked a lot of controversy and have led her to be labeled as a TERF and transphobic and all of these other things. And I'm not going to explain all of that. I'm not going to dive into detail about each tweet and everything she said. It's very easy to find that information. If you're curious, if you want to research it, just look up J.K. Rowling controversy or J.K. Rowling transphobia, anything like that on Google. Videos will come up, articles, her tweets will probably come up. But the gist of it is basically that she has expressed recently her fear that the direction of the trans rights movement, and specifically for trans women, is, in her opinion, infringing upon the rights of women. So there's already a problem there. And that, like, allowing trans women into women's bathrooms and women's prisons, places like that, into women's spaces in general, is dangerous, and then opens the door for men to be there, and we're ignoring biological sex, and that's an important thing. And she claims she's not transphobic because she will support trans women, but then she goes on to insinuate that trans women aren't really women in lots of ways. And again, I would really prefer that you just look this up yourself. You can take away what you will on it, but I wanted to kind of talk about my thoughts on it and how it's affected me recently. And so I'll start off by saying, first of all, this is not news to me. J.K. Rowling has put out tweets long ago and has said things and done things that have really kind of implied that she is transphobic, and that is not a shocker for me. So she's really been, like, canceled in the last, I want to say, month or two, with this recent stuff. But to me, it didn't really change the way I felt about her. I already kind of had that impression of her. So I had already gotten at this point, but it blew up in such a way that it was impossible to ignore. Not that I necessarily wanted to, but it really got me thinking again. And the first reaction I really had to finding out that J.K. Rowling had these views and these ideas and was putting out these statements was anger and frustration and disappointment and sadness. Like I said, Harry Potter was a series that was very important to me throughout my childhood. It served as a huge escapism for me, and was just something that I loved to watch the movies of when I was a kid. I loved to read the books later on. I actually read the books after because I didn't read very much as a child. And so I was like, wow, that sucks. And separating the art from the artist is something that is easier for some, harder for others. When it comes to J.K. Rowling, I think it's particularly difficult because not only did she write this series, but she threw herself into it completely. I mean, the website Pottermore is full of lore that she keeps adding to years and years and years, at this point over a decade after the last book has been published. She continuously tweets about characters and their relationships and bits of backstory that was never explicitly stated in the books. The most famous example of this is her announcing years later that Dumbledore is gay, and there's a lot of controversy around that too that we're not going to get into. But the point being, she is Harry Potter in many ways. It is like her baby to her. She has completely submerged herself in the lore and the culture of this series. She's been a major part in the casting and the production of every film, and she has written the Fantastic Beasts prequel series. Like, it is her child, and she continues to be a part of it years after it's finished. So it's not exactly easy to say, well, okay, yeah, she made this, but I will separate it from her and appreciate it for its own value. However, that's kind of what I had to do. When I thought about disavowing her and disavowing her work completely, separating myself from this thing that I love so much, I just thought to myself, why on earth do I have to do that? I, a trans woman who is, I want to say, getting the blunt of her statements, like, it's mostly directed at trans women. The kind of implications that she's stating and the explicit statements she's making are, I'd say they're most directly harming trans women. So why should I, as a trans woman, have to not only accept that, but then also lose something that I love very, very much? That's my dog barking, I'm sorry. But lose something that I love very, very much and care about and have loved since I was a child, in addition to now having to deal with this person I looked up to being shitty. It did not seem fair at all. And to me, letting her take that away from me just felt like the worst thing I could do. And I am not going to put anyone down if they did decide to disconnect themselves completely from Harry Potter and from J.K. Rowling. You are more than welcome to do that. And if that is what feels comfortable to you, go for it. If that's what feels like you need to do for yourself, that makes you happier, you just cannot enjoy Harry Potter anymore, well, that kind of sucks. That's disappointing, and I'm sorry that you had to come to this revelation, but, like, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I think that you need to do whatever is healthy and good for you. What I do want to say, however, and the message that I really deeply want to get across is, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to disavow themselves from Harry Potter and to give up loving it. If you love it, especially if you're a trans person, but even cis people too, if you love Harry Potter and now you've realized, oh, there's some unsavory characteristics of J.K. Rowling, you do not have to give up Harry Potter. It is your choice. Daniel Radcliffe put out a really, really well-written statement about this, and I'll link it in the description or something because I really want everyone to read it. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically he was saying that, it's disappointing, and he understands that some people will just not be able to connect with the series in the same way anymore, and that's understandable. However, if you read the series taking away the message that love is the most important thing in the universe, or that friendship is super this and that, and you had all these positive messages that you got out of it, and you read it with this image in mind that it was all about acceptance, and it was helpful to you as a trans person, etc., then you should absolutely be allowed to keep that and still be upset with J.K. Rowling. Again, I'm paraphrasing. I haven't read the quote in a while, but I really like what he said in it, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say too. I think that it's just, everyone has their own personal connection with art and how they consume it. And in my opinion, each individual's interpretation of the art and the story that they consume is as important, if not more important, than the author's intention. The author will always have their message in mind and what they want to get across with what they're doing, and they have an idea of how people might interpret it, but they do not get to decide how everyone sees it. You just can't. There's going to be, in her case, like hundreds of thousands, millions, millions of people who've read the Harry Potter series, and everyone's going to take away different themes and ideas from it. And everyone's is equally as valid. So you don't have to give that up just because now you've learned this crappy thing about her. I read something recently that I think is also very telling in this situation, and that is subtext is subtext, even if it's not intended. And actually, where I'm getting this from is from the theory about Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot being trans. One of the people who worked on the show, if I can find the tweet, I'll link it, said that like we didn't intend for any subtext about Jenny being trans, but that doesn't mean it's not there. And I think that's really relevant to this. It's very easy to look at Harry Potter and take away a message of getting to be yourself and accepting people for who they are, and you could definitely construe and infer some kind of like trans positive subtext there. And just because obviously J.K. Rowling didn't intend for that, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And you can take that and you can do whatever you want with it, and that can be your headcanon for the series. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you all think about this. Again, I want to reiterate that not everyone's going to be able to maintain the connection and the relationship they once had with the series. Sorry for my dog. And that sucks, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry you had to lose something you love so much, but I just want people to know that you shouldn't feel an obligation to disconnect from it just because you feel like you need to do that in order to pursue social justice for trans people. I actually don't I think that's kind of counterintuitive in a lot of ways, and you just need to do whatever is comfortable for you. This is how it's personally affected me, and you know, it took me some time to kind of cope with this. But at the end of the day, I'm not ready to give up something I love so much, and I'm going to not financially support J.K. Rowling anymore. I'm not going to see any of the future movies. I've already owned all the books, so I'm not buying anything else. I'm not going to buy any licensed Harry Potter products anymore, but I'm going to continue to hold on to the world that I loved very much as a kid and help me escape during some very, very difficult times in my life. So I hope you all can too, and if you can't, I'm sorry. But I'd love to hear what you all think about this, and I appreciate you hearing me talk about this somewhat outdated topic for 12 minutes. That's all for this video. I'm happy you all watched it. Thank you. I will see you in the next one. Bye.